Have you ever walked past two businesses selling almost the same product at almost the same price and somehow trusted one instantly while ignoring the other completely? What if I told you that the difference wasn't the product, it wasn't the price, and it wasn't even the marketing? It was something invisible, something that can make customers remember you for years or forget you within seconds. And tonight, I want to tell you the story of a business owner who almost lost everything, not because she lacked talent, not because her product was bad, but because her brand identity was broken in ways she couldn't even see. The terrifying part? Most entrepreneurs are making the exact same mistake right now. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you may recognize your own business in hers, and the solution that saved her company could change the future of yours. 3 years ago, in a quiet neighborhood just outside Manchester, there was a small bakery called Willow Wheat. The owner, Emma, had spent 10 years perfecting her recipes. Every loaf was handmade. Every pastry was crafted before sunrise. Customers who tasted her food loved it. But almost nobody remembered her bakery. New visitors came once and rarely returned. Locals often confused her bakery with another cafe down the street. Online reviews praised the croissants, but people couldn't recall the bakery's name. Imagine hearing someone say, "That place, the one with the good cinnamon rolls?" That sentence haunted Emma. Because if people remember your product but forget your brand, someone else eventually gets the credit. At first, Emma blamed everything else. She blamed social media algorithms. She blamed the economy. She blamed rising ingredient costs. Then she blamed herself. Maybe I'm just not cut out for business. One rainy Tuesday evening, after another disappointing week, Emma sat alone in the bakery. The lights were dim. Unsold bread lined the shelves. She was calculating whether she could survive another 3 months. That was when an elderly customer named Margaret walked in. Margaret had been buying bread from Emma for years. She looked around the bakery quietly and asked, "Why does this place feel different every time I come here?" Emma laughed awkwardly. "Different? It's the same bakery." Margaret shook her head. "Last month your menu looked rustic. Today it looks modern. Your packaging changed again. Your sign outside uses different colors than your website. Your Instagram feels cheerful, but this place feels serious. I never know who Willow Wheat is supposed to be." Emma froze. No consultant had ever explained it that clearly. Margaret wasn't criticizing the bread. She was pointing to something far more dangerous. The bakery had no clear identity, and that is the first step to fixing a brand. Most businesses try to look successful before they decide who they are. Emma had changed her logo 4 times. Her colors changed whenever a designer suggested a trend. Her tone of voice changed depending on which employee posted on social media. Sometimes she presented the bakery as a luxury artisan brand. Other times she advertised discount breakfast deals. Customers were receiving conflicting signals every day. The next morning, Emma did something she had never done before. She closed the bakery for 1 full day. Her staff thought she was having a breakdown. Instead, she asked a single question. If Willow Wheat were a person, who would it be? They spent hours writing words on a whiteboard. Warm, honest, patient, handcrafted, neighborly, timeless. Not trendy, not luxurious, not cheap, simply trustworthy. For the first time, the bakery had a personality. That personality became the foundation of everything that followed. Because a strong brand identity is not a logo. It is a promise people can recognize instantly. Emma thought that was enough. It wasn't. Because the second problem was hiding in plain sight. A week later, a food blogger visited the bakery. Emma was excited. This could finally bring attention. The blogger posted a review titled, "Excellent Bread, Confusing Brand." The article explained that the bakery's website looked premium. The shop looked cozy and traditional, the takeaway packaging looked playful, and the staff greeted customers in completely different ways. The review ended with one sentence. "I'm not sure what Willow Wheat wants to be." Emma felt devastated. She had improved her identity. Why wasn't it working? Because identity must be visible everywhere, think of the brands you instantly recognize. You know their colors. You know their tone. You know how they make you feel. Emma realized that every touchpoint was telling a different story. So she simplified everything. The same earthy colors appeared on the storefront, website, social media, menus, packaging, aprons, and delivery boxes. Every employee greeted customers the same way. "Welcome, we're glad you're here." Receipts included a handwritten thank you message. Instagram captions sounded like conversations with neighbors. Nothing dramatic. Nothing flashy. Just consistent. Within 2 months, something surprising happened. Customers began taking photos of the packaging. People started tagging the bakery online. Visitors began saying, "I knew this was Willow and Wheat before I even saw the name." That is when Emma learned one of the most powerful truths in branding. Consistency creates recognition, and recognition creates trust. Business improved. Revenue increased. Emma finally believed the worst was over. Then a competitor opened across the street, and everything changed again. The new bakery was larger, brighter, and aggressively marketed. They offered discounts every weekend. Their advertising flooded social media. Emma watched her customer numbers begin to slip once more. Panic returned. She considered lowering prices, running promotions, changing her branding again. But then she remembered Margaret's words. "I never know who you're supposed to be." This time, Emma refused to become invisible again. Instead, she asked a deeper question. What makes us impossible to replace? The answer would become the third and perhaps most important step in repairing a brand identity. But discovering it would require Emma to confront a painful truth she had been avoiding for years. And that truth was waiting for her in a dusty notebook hidden in the back room of the bakery. Emma stood alone in the back room of the bakery, surrounded by flour sacks, old recipe cards, and boxes that had not been opened in years. She was searching for ideas. Searching for something that could save her business from becoming just another bakery competing on price. Then she found it. A faded notebook wrapped in a linen cloth. On the first page, written in careful handwriting, were the words, "Bread remembers the hands that make it." The notebook belonged to Emma's grandmother, the woman who had taught her to bake when she was a child. Every recipe was accompanied by a story. One loaf had been created during a harsh winter when neighbors shared ingredients to survive. Another pastry was invented for a local wedding after a family lost everything in a factory fire. There were notes about people, not just ingredients. Emma suddenly realized something that had been missing all along. She wasn't simply selling bread. She was carrying a legacy. And that brings us to the third step in fixing a brand identity. Most businesses copy what competitors are doing. They copy colors. They copy slogans. They copy social media trends. But customers do not connect deeply with copies. They connect with stories. Emma stopped advertising fresh bread daily. Every bakery said that. Instead, she began sharing the stories behind the recipes. On social media, she posted photographs of the old notebook. She told the story of her grandmother waking before dawn. She explained why one loaf was called the winter table. She introduced the farmers who supplied her flour. Customers were no longer buying pastries. They were becoming part of a story. An unexpected twist followed. People began traveling from other towns to visit the bakery. Not because it was cheaper. Not because it was larger. Because it felt real. A local newspaper featured Willow and Wheat under the headline, "The bakery that turned family history into a brand." For the first time, Emma had something her competitor could not duplicate: authenticity. But success created a new challenge. As the bakery became more popular, Emma received offers from investors. They wanted to expand quickly, open multiple locations, modernize the brand, speed up production. The opportunity looked irresistible. Yet something felt wrong. She almost accepted. Then she remembered the notebook. She remembered the sentence that had started everything. Bread remembers the hands that make it. And she understood the fourth step. Brand identity is fragile. It can take years to build and weeks to destroy. Emma did expand, but slowly. Every new employee learned the stories behind the recipes. Every new location used the same colors, the same language, the same handwritten thank you notes. The company grew without losing its soul. Many businesses fail at this stage. They become successful and then abandon the very identity that created their success. They chase trends. They imitate larger brands. They forget what made them memorable. Emma refused to do that. One afternoon, nearly a year after that rainy conversation with Margaret, the elderly customer returned. She looked around the bakery and smiled. "This place feels the same every time I come here," she said. Emma smiled back. "That's the nicest compliment anyone has ever given me." Margaret nodded. "Now I know exactly who Willow and Wheat is." Those words mattered more than revenue numbers, more than social media followers, more than awards. Because recognition is the beginning of loyalty. And loyalty is the beginning of a brand that survives. The final step: let your customers reflect your identity. Months later, Emma noticed something extraordinary. Customers were describing the bakery using the exact words from that original whiteboard. Warm, honest, neighborly, timeless. The identity she had defined internally was now being repeated externally. That is the ultimate test of a brand. Not what you say about yourself. What people say when you are not in the room. When customers become storytellers for your business, branding stops being marketing. It becomes reputation. So if your brand feels invisible, if people remember your product but not your name, if your website, social media, packaging, and customer experience all feel disconnected, remember Emma's journey. Ask yourself these questions. Who are we really? Are we consistent everywhere? What story can only we tell? Are we protecting our identity as we grow? And are our customers describing us the way we want to be remembered? A strong brand identity is not built overnight. It is built through clarity, consistency, authenticity, protection, and the stories that people carry with them long after they leave. Years later, visitors still lined up outside Willow and Wheat before sunrise. Many came for the bread. But most came for the feeling. The feeling that they were walking into a place that knew exactly who it was. And perhaps that is the most powerful branding lesson of all. People do not fall in love with businesses that try to be everything. They fall in love with businesses brave enough to become something unforgettable. If this story helped you see your brand in a new way, take a moment to like this video, share it with another entrepreneur or business owner, and tell me in the comments. What is the one word you want people to remember about your brand? And if you enjoy powerful business stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that could change the way you build your business. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.